"Are you a true king?" John asked suddenly. "I've never had a crown on my head or set my arse on some bloody throne, if that's what you're asking," Mance replied. "My birth is as low as a man's can get. No septons ever smeared my head with oils. I don't own any castles, and my queen wears furs and amber, not silk and sapphires. I am my own champion, my own fool, and my own harpist. You don't become king beyond the wall because your father was." What makes a leader? Who deserves to have power? These are questions that reverberate not just through A Song of Ice and Fire, but through the real world as well. We see many characters such as Jon Snow and Daenerys struggle with the burden of leadership, deconstructing our ideas about the glory and honor these positions earn. We've seen countless times the corruption, sacrifice, and constant pressure this can have on just one person. But one character manages to surpass these challenges and become arguably the greatest king in A Song of Ice and Fire. It's surprising how early on Mance Rayder was mentioned in this story. The second paragraph of the first chapter is about Mance and the wildlings, and he was present under disguise when Robert Baratheon feasted at Winterfell. Long before we meet him, his presence is already established. Beyond the wall is a race of wildlings who want to raid the north and destroy the Night's Watch to get past the wall. We don't know what he looks like or what his backstory is, but he already strikes fear into our main characters. The man had been taken outside to a small holdfast in the hills. Robb thought he was a wildling, his sword sworn to Mance Rayder, the king beyond the wall. It made Bran's skin prickle to think of it. He remembered the hearth tales old Nan told him. The wildlings were cruel men, she said, slavers and slayers and thieves. They consorted with giants and ghouls, stole girl children in the dead of night, and drank blood from polished horns. And their women lay with the others in the long night to sire terrible half-human children. A clear line is given to us at the beginning of the story. Past the wall, the people are violent, uncivilized, and dangerous. Jon is the first one to see through this artificial barrier. We see through his story that both sides are more complicated than he initially thought. The wildlings, just like the rest of Westeros, are in danger of the others. With no other choice than to run south, Mance unites the wildlings in an effort to save as many of them as possible. And when Jon meets him in person, he's nothing like the stories he was told. He doesn't even recognize him when he's in the room, since he's looking for a fearsome warrior. But we find the enemy of the north singing a song and playing the lute. In a room full of hardened warriors such as Tormund and Styr, the old man in the corner commands the most respect out of any of them. Mance was a wildling child when his parents were killed by the Watch. He would be raised as one of them, but always feel out of place. According to him, when he was out ranging, he was attacked by a shadow cat and was healed by a wildling woman. She fixed his wounds and repaired his black cloak with red silk from a shy. When he returned and was instructed to replace his cloak, he betrayed the Watch and went to live with the Free Folk. From there, he spent years uniting the wildlings through both peace and violence, finally reclaiming his identity. This backstory, while possibly stretched at certain points, has obvious parallels to Jon Snow. They both felt out of place because of their birth, and betrayed the Night's Watch for the wildlings. But one part of the story may be foreshadowing for the future of this story. When the woman heals Mance and fixes his cloak, she uses red silk from a shy. This is likely a nod to Melisandre, but what does it mean? It could symbolize Melisandre resurrecting Jon in the future. This event caused Mance to go from a Night's Watchman to a king beyond the wall, and in Jon's case it could mean a drastic change in his goals. We saw how drastic Lady Stoneheart's goals shifted towards revenge, and maybe Jon's resurrection could make him take charge of the wildlings, or storm Winterfell to defeat the Boltons, just like Mance has tried before. His plan to bring his people south of the wall fails catastrophically. He and the wildlings are crushed, not only by the Night's Watch but by Stannis' forces as well. They are decimated and captured at the wall, with most of the other wildlings submitting to Stannis' forces to pass through. Mance is given a fake execution and lives under a disguise because of Melisandre's glamour. He did everything right. He came from nothing, yet managed to unite thousands of wildlings and save them from certain doom. He showed all the qualities of a good leader. He could unite some with compassion and others with violence, and his accomplishments were so admirable that he had the utmost respect from all the wildlings. But where we are now, his people are in disarray, only a fraction of their population before, and he is held captive by a boy who turned his cloak on him, constantly under threat by Melisandre, who could sacrifice him or his son whenever she wants. In stories, we're expected to believe that the stronger fighter is the hero. Whether or not the villain has a better philosophy, it comes down to who can win the final battle that decides the outcome of the conflict. We've seen in the story that men with sheer power, such as Robert Baratheon, fail when it comes to leadership, and that tactical intelligence such as Robb Stark's isn't enough to win a war. A man shows diplomacy, strength, and intelligence, yet simply fails because of the situation he's in charge of. He offered to shoulder the weight of an entire race, who are now mostly corpses beyond the wall. Captured by his enemies and constantly under threat for both his life and his son's, he will accept the only option he can, and follow Melisandre's orders to save Jeyne Poole from Winterfell. With nothing to lose anymore, he goes under disguise as a bard to Winterfell with 6 spearwives. He does what he's best at, staying hidden in plain sight while he collects information about the castle and its inhabitants. His spearwives begin to kill northern men in the castle before they team up with Theon to save Jeyne Poole. They're captured though, and Theon and Jeyne manage to escape. Mance's location is unknown, but Jon receives a letter from Ramsay explaining the situation. You told the world you burned the king beyond the wall. Instead you send him to Winterfell to steal my bride from me. I will have my bride back. If you want Mance Rayder back, come and get him. I have him in a cage for the north to see, proof of your lies. The cage is cold, but I've made him a warm cloak from the skins of the 6 whores who came with him to Winterfell. I want my bride back. I want the false king's queen. I want his daughter and his red witch. I want this wildling princess. I want his little prince, the wildling babe. And I want my reek. Send them to me, bastard, and I will not trouble you or your black crows. Keep them for me, and I will cut out your bastard's heart and eat it. Once again, Mance's plans have failed, and now he's in a cage, warmed only by the skins of his spearwives. Or is he? Many have pointed out that the letter doesn't align with others Ramsay wrote, since it doesn't include any skin and isn't written in blood. But who else could have written it? My guess is Mance. He and the spearwives asked Theon about the layout of the castle and the crypts, possibly looking for hiding locations once fighting broke out. And Mance is especially skilled at hiding, especially in Winterfell, which he's already snuck into before. At this point, while the status of the spearwives is unknown, Mance could be hiding in the crypts and writing this letter to make sure Jon Snow leads an army down to Winterfell. The letter does focus heavily on Mance and also uses terms the wildlings use often, such as false king and black crows. While we still don't know his full plans, I doubt a character as cunning and intelligent would go down without a fight, and bring down the wildlings would surely help Mance in his cause. Whatever happens to him, Mance remains one of the most important A Song of Ice and Fire characters for what he represents. He's a jack of all trades, who's successful in diplomacy and battle. But, like many things in the story, it doesn't end up well, even for those who did nothing wrong. But if his strategy and cunningness haven't left him, then he won't leave this story without putting up a fight.